Hello, and welcome to another update video on Strategy Inc. Obviously, a chart that is very much, related to developments, price developments in the crypto sector. But obviously, it doesn't depend as much on Bitcoin necessarily as many would think. It does, but again, it's still a known business with its own balance sheet and everything, right? Remember that Bitcoin recently formed a new all-time high. Well, guess what? Strategy didn't. So just to address some of the comments from the last few videos where people asked, yeah, but isn't it all depending on what Bitcoin is doing? To a degree, yes, but not in the detail, right? If we really look into detailed wave structures, while very often you would see the you would identify correlation in the direction, but not necessarily in the degree. So Bitcoin, for example, it recently formed a new all-time high. Well, Strategy's all-time high was in November 2024. Yeah, it hasn't formed a new all-time high this year. It didn't, right? But Bitcoin did several times even, right? So no, it's the direction to a degree is depending on Bitcoin, crypto, of course, yeah, but not necessarily in the detailed wave structures. And why do we see that correlation? Well, it's clear, right? A lot of the assets that MSTR is holding, Strategy Inc., yeah, basically a Bitcoin holding company. It's nearly a Bitcoin ETF, Not exactly, right? Not exactly. As I said, there are still it's not correlating as much as people would think. But of course, if we look at the treasury tracker here, Bitcoin holdings, you see that on Bitcoin Magazine Pro's overview here, Strategy is obviously the top, and they keep buying, right? I mean, they're all buying, but clearly and you see it in the hodl board here, with an overview of over 640, or not an overview, but with more than 640,250, to be exact, with 640,250 BTC in their holdings. Strategy obviously is the top public treasury company of Bitcoin. Yeah. Second would be Marathon Digital, and then XXI. And they've got MetaPlanet and some other ones. Obviously, they're all noteworthy. But yeah, Strategy is clearly at the absolute top. And therefore, obviously, it will be more impacted by Bitcoin's developments. Makes sense. Yeah, if the majority of your balance sheet, right, consists of Bitcoin holdings, of course, the market price, or the price of the business itself, will be impacted by that. But a company has more than that, right? There's more attached to it. Yeah, there is future expectations. All of that is priced in, and they still have other sides of their business as well. But of course, majority is Bitcoin, and so the concern is, once Bitcoin forms a major top, what's going to happen with MSTR? And well, you can see that on the larger time frame chart that I actually wanted to start with, there is a lot of room to the downside. I mean, in a bear market, it will be crushed. That's my view. Okay, save this link of this video. I mean, yeah, it should be crushed. I mean, never say will, right? Nothing is. There are no certainties in markets, but it should be crushed. Just simply because it is what happened. 2021 as well. It just kind of followed Bitcoin at the time. Obviously, the holdings were much lower. I'm not even sure if we see that here on this treasury tracker. No, but the holdings were much lower. Obviously, they go up all the time. So the concern is just that once Bitcoin forms a major top, and I think we are close to that, hasn't happened yet. I think we're close to that. Then MSTR will also start to break down, and so it makes sense when we analyze MSTR also to keep an eye on Bitcoin. So that's why we publish a lot of Bitcoin analysis on a daily basis as well on our Morecryptoonline channel. So you can get that overview as well, and then the correlation is sometimes more, sometimes less clear. But I think if the larger pullback starts, the larger correction on the Bitcoin chart, then Strategy will follow. And we have $234, roughly this area around 230 as key support, and the move up from the April 2022 low is primarily seen here as a C wave of wave 3. Yeah, I'm very open to the idea that the next larger correction will be a wave 4. If it's more dramatic, it might be a wave 2, but this would be the first support area that will be tested between $158 and $22. It's a large area, I have to say. Of course it is. Very often we would see in a fourth wave the market reach the 38.2 retracement to 50% retracement. That is from where we are now. That is a 75% correction. And that is very much possible because it's more volatile than Bitcoin, okay? And so it kind of makes sense. It's something to be aware of, okay? And I mean, a wave 4, if it's a wave 4, it doesn't need to be sharp, but it could still be something like this, wave A, B, C, up. More like a sideways correction, but still with a lot of volatility. It's just something everybody needs to be prepared for, okay? And I wanted to spend here some time to discuss that. Where could the price, let's say, land if we get a bear market? Where could we land? And this would be the main focus because statistically, you can say that the 38.2 retracement is it is the ideal target for a fourth wave. Now, from an Elliott Wave point of view, if we talk about targets for this third wave, you know, one way to measure that is to take the length of the A wave there, of this diagonal pattern. We go to the low of the B wave, and honestly, the 100% extension is an ideal target for the C wave. It's been reached. I haven't done anything to this. It really has reached the 100% extension. That's a perfect target for a C wave. So any upside is nice to have, but until we see really impulsive movements to the downside, and as long as, I remain focused on upside because it's still possible, and Bitcoin is not clearly in a bear market yet. So I think it can make sense to stay open to higher prices, but the easy part of that trade is done. Like the easy part always happens in a third wave, and that happened already, the internal third wave here. That already happened. So we're rather here currently in a choppy, messy structure. Wave 4s are often choppy. Maybe we are still even in this wave 4, as you will see on a smaller time frame. By the way, if we go any higher, the next fib extensions... Oops, hold on. I thought I might just be able to bring it back. The next upside targets, there are different ways of measuring targets. And of course, I just showed you the first ideal target. But then we have 1,330. Now, that's maybe a little high for the next push higher. Possible, of course, but we can also add the target calculation here. We take the length of the wave 1, we go to the low of the wave 2, and what we normally say is a larger degree third wave should get at least to the 123.6 extension. It reached that. The next one is 374. It reached that. The next one is around 858. That sounds a bit more realistic, but we'll see if the market can actually achieve that. Now let's take a look at the shorter time frame for MSTR. What's happening here? Price pushing a bit higher today, again, together with the crypto sector. I mean, this is all the movement here that you see from the top in 2024. As you can see, no all-time high in 2025. Movements to the downside, rather three-wave movements. Movements to the upside, rather three-wave movements. Down looks potentially impulsive, so I'm a bit concerned we might have topped already. To reduce the likelihood for that, that actually a meaningful top already formed and that we're already in a bear market, we need to get a break above the initial resistance. There is a so-called 1-2 setup to the downside, but this wave 2 in orange, which could be a setup for lower prices, will become less likely with a break above the 78.6 retracement at $342.60, and it will become invalidated with a break above $365.50. That would be the invalidation point. So for now, I think we can view this as a bounce that's still unfolding, a corrective bounce potentially, that's the risk. But if we get 5 waves up and we break above the red zone, even better above our green signal line, then we have further confirmation that we have actually bottomed already in the B wave, and then we might even get an indication that we are on our way to all-time highs. There is more resistance to clear, but this is, I believe, what is important this week. In the very short term support, micro support for upside continuation is between $276.90 and $291.55. So that's an update on MSTR. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. And yeah, if you're interested in additional updates, check out our other channels as well. For example, the Morecryptoonline channel for Bitcoin updates. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.